Hello everyone. This has been a really long time coming, and that's why we needed to do a dev stream, because God knows when I originally thought this patch was going to come out, probably something like May or June. But
May or June.
Yeah. But yeah, huge patch, lots of stuff we wanted to do. Work went mental for me. So yeah, apologies everyone. But yeah, so much has been done. I don't know, do you remember when the last patch came out?
Last patch was 22nd of March.
March, bloody hell. Yeah, it's been nearly 6 months.
Exactly.
April, May, June, July, August, 5 months. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, where to start, I guess. So I guess
let's start.
Let's
start with. I think the hotkey rework is a good place to start. Give people a little bit of time to come in before we start doing the. Do you want to show off the Space Marine stuff, or do we leave that till the actual patch release?
To be honest, we've shown all the images of all the content,
okay.
So I'm happy to actually show videos.
Okay, so we'll start with the hotkeys. Then you can show off all of the Space Marine units, and then we can move on to the campaign, specifically the Necron stronghold, and I can talk about that. Sound good?
Sweet. So what you're trying to say is the hotkey rework is the most boring thing, so let's put it first while people arrive.
Yes, precisely.
Bastard. That's my favourite bit. So hotkeys. I think I feel like I've spoken about this before. Did we have I talked about this on stream before?
Maybe you talked through it a bit, because it has been... Yeah, I think you talked about Blansford and stuff like that in the 2.03 dev patch or something along those lines, but we haven't showed off the full complete
what it actually
work.
is. Yeah. Well, this basically is something I have wanted to do for a long time. Basically, I was always pretty unhappy, which is not surprising, because let's be honest, the hotkeys were always a mess. It was just an attempt to have a hotkey aside to everything. There was no consistency, and of course there is an absolute monster amount of content in the mod. Doing any sort of hotkey rework was going to be difficult. And yeah, I wanted consistency. I wanted consistency between the races. So for example, myself primarily as an Eldar player, I'd learnt the Eldar hotkeys, but I didn't know the other races. Every race was kind of like you just had to learn hundreds of hotkeys. And even with Eldar, there was abilities that I didn't bother using hotkeys for, because I just couldn't remember them because they're all just random. So I wanted it simple, standardized. I wanted it as grid-based as possible, so that things kind of line up with how they are on the screen, just to make things as simple as possible. And then there were things that had to be sacrificed, because I suppose 26 hotkeys sounds like a lot. It's really not. So basically, the big thing that doesn't have hotkeys is weapon upgrades. So as a rule, let's bring something out.
So, there are kind of two parts to this. First of all, that abilities and stuff like that, a lot of the time didn't have a set place they would appear at on the kind of UI. They would just pop in random places depending on the combination of things that you had. Now, all abilities should have a consistent place that they're always at. So, for example, for Eldar, Guide will always be in a specific place for a specific unit, or I'm guessing for most units as well.
Yeah,
it's a little bit finicky as well, where we couldn't make it so that all similar abilities are all on the same kind of hotkey, but there is a structure to it now.
Yeah. And of course, there's just too many abilities, too many things for things to be in exactly the same place. I suppose especially between races.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time there's a surprising amount of consistency. So for example, things like smoke grenades or ram on vehicles, they have a consistent place. Mobility abilities in general, they have a consistent place. Grenades have a consistent place. So as much as possible, there's consistency between between races, but there are times when things just
need to be broken a little bit to make everything fit.
Well, maybe not broken, but just inconsistent. There's a few times where we just don't have enough space, which we'll go through in a minute. So, for example, let's just start going through them. So if I get a squad that has grenades, so we've got Dire Avengers. Obviously, we don't see any, but let's do the researches. I also need to go up here. So grenades are locked onto the right-hand side. So generally, the races that have 4 grenades got 1, 2, 3, 4, and this will be in the order that you unlock them. So generally, it's some sort of damage grenade, stun, anti-vehicle, and whatever the last one is. Space Marines, for example, have got 6 grenades, so it will start here. I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then so the hotkey rework is hotkey and UI placement rework. It's 2 things, but grenade hotkeys, and now this is without any times when it's wrong. I've forgotten the word now. Any inconsistencies. Grenades are now XCV BNM, or for races that only have 4 XCVB. So you now know that when you're playing, no matter
what race you're playing, your first primary grenade that you unlock will be on X, and so you can just pick up a new race and get the grenade, and you don't have to worry about the clicking on the thing. You just know what the hotkey will be.
Yeah, and same thing. Any race you want to throw anti-vehicle grenades, it will be V. For the standard ones, I guess. Space Marines also have things like the melter bomb.
Yeah.
But it's very consistent. Any race that has some sort of stun grenade, it's always on C. Things change a little bit when you've got smoke grenades, but for every race that has smoke grenades, they will be on the same hotkey. Run is now on Q. I think we did that at some point, but this is going to extend to Fleet of Foot, which will be on Q, which is the same as it was. But then things like mobility abilities on vehicles, they're all on Q. So again, consistency.
I guess the other thing to really show off is abilities appearing on the small spots. So maybe get a Farseer or something.
I'll do that in a sec. One last thing I'll show is that as much as possible, we are making leaders for squads have abilities in a different place. So as you can see, Dire Avengers, 4 grenades. Warlock, 2 abilities. You see they don't overlap. You connect them, they're all in the same place that you used to. They're all on the same hotkeys.
A good showcase. Do the Dire Avengers still have their attack speed ability, or was that gotten rid of?
Oh, that was gotten rid of.
Okay, because if there's a squad with an ability, might be a good idea to show that off as well. To where if I remember correctly, those abilities will be in those 2 slots that are empty.
Trying to think awkwardly. Howling Banshees are one I need to fix actually, because these do have the ability in the wrong place. But generally, with Eldar, for the very few squads that do have an ability on the actual squad themselves, it will be in the 3rd position. I had actually forgotten to recode some stuff, because as I'll show you later, there is an Aspect Warrior rework, but we won't talk about that for now. So it took a huge amount of time to go through each race one by one and see what all the leaders did, all the heroes did, all the squads did, and try and find a way where nothing conflicts, no matter who you're attaching to. And there are a few times when there are just too many abilities. I think it's Inquisitor, Lord, IDH, and Librarian, or
Space Marine Librarian, and Tau leaders getting attached to recruit squads.
Yeah, well, that's a separate
So,
issue. But in
kind
terms of ones having
okay.
too many abilities, it's
yeah.
that and maybe something like Farseer. But I think I've actually got rid
Maybe
of that now.
Farseer or Shadowseer getting attached to a
Yeah.
squad with already existing
We'll
abilities,
show
something along those lines.
the Inquisition show the actual issue for that. And then the only other issue, like Oleg said, is attaching Crute leaders to Tau squads and Tau leaders to Crute squads. So we kind of suggest that if you've got a Tau leader, you don't attach it to a Crute squad because there'll be some overlapping. But, you know, minor things. But apart from that, everything else should fit. And we will continue working with any feedback we get on anything that is conflicting and, you know, sort it out. So if I just pull out the Farseer then, so this is what Oleg was talking about in terms of abilities. We now have a new system for leaders and heroes, so both. In fact, Eldar was the first race I did. That's why their leader is here. But for other races, it's moved down to here, and I might do the same with Eldar. But if we look at the Farseer, you will see that most of its abilities are now moved to here. Yeah, they're just in a different place when you attach them. You know, everything's still in a consistent place. Less stuff to remember, less stuff to get confused about, less icons shuffling around, and no conflicting hotkeys. And if we go to something like the Inquisition, so this is why it was needed. Yeah, we needed more space because there are some heroes with just
Ridiculous amounts of abilities.
I mean, I might actually rework the Inquisitor Lord at some point to have less abilities.
The proper amount of abilities, because he has way too many. Like,
yeah. So here you can see why the Inquisitor
filling
Lord,
out all the slots. So if you attach him to anything, it is gonna overflow.
yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, we might work out at some point if there's something to do about that. To be honest, I think 16 abilities is just too many.
Yeah, I agree. Like, he should have fewer abilities. Some maybe can be made into passive, some can just be gotten rid of, that kind of thing. But yeah.
So
one
last thing I just want to say about this. I just want to get the Force Commander out. So another thing for consistent Force Commander would work because that's not spell. What may have to have oh, this is going to get embarrassing. I can't find it.
He's in the Sacred Artifact.
Yeah. Right. So the old implementation was that when you researched your first ability, it populated 1. Then when you built another one, it populated 2, then 3, and then they'd all move around depending on kind of coding stuff. Now, if I don't get the first 2 abilities, but get this one, it'll go into its space. If I then get this one, it'll go into its space. Yeah, so it's all consistent. And then the last thing just to mention, if I go back to Farseer, is abilities generally all follow a particular sort of order of hotkeys. So, like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but ability something like W, E, F, G, H, J, K, L, N, M. And it's those because other keys are being used for other things. So you'll know eventually when you get used to the system a little bit. I'm not quite sure why. But you will know that in order, it's W, E, F, G, and you can kind of do it visually. So last couple of things on the hotkeys, and then I promise I'll shut up. Let's go to Space Marines just because they've got a load of bollocks. Okay. Weapons, no hotkeys. We just had to sacrifice it. Leaders then, and this will match where they are here. It will be Y-U-I-O. So Y-U-I-O. Same for every race. Just to make it super consistent. Jump is now natively moved for all races, all units D, just because it is such a critical ability that having jump on the far side of the keyboard from your attack move and all that, it's not good. So jump is moved to D. Ungarrisoning buildings is also in an easy to hit key, stuff that you're using a lot in the thicker combat. So I guess enough of hotkeys. You got any comments on hotkeys?
I think you covered everything. Yeah.
Yeah. It will take time for people to get used to, but I think long term it's a rework well worth doing just to add consistency.
Yes, it is. It was definitely necessary because hotkeys were a mess, and without a way for people to reasonably customize their own hotkeys, it was not. Yeah, it was just not a good system before.
Yeah. I was going to say something and I forgot. Oh yeah, now that Oleg has completed, there was some code that had to be sorted to get this stuff working, but now these are populatable. They are available if we need them in the future for other stuff. Which has been good. Okay, so enough of hotkeys. Let's cancel out this battle. What do you want to talk about now?
Space Marines?
Yes, the big one. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Space Marine rework is going to be in 2 parts. Too much to do. I just wanted to get the patch out within a decent amount of time. I don't want it to be another couple of months because we're trying to do too much. So yes, 3 chapters for now, 2 chapters in the next patch. I've just realised you weren't even in that game, so you were kind of just
I
guess watching the stream.
I've just kind of been chilling.
Cool. Let's make a 4-player game.
Oh yeah, by the way, the hotkeys weren't displaying because remember we have to do some extra stuff to get the hotkey files to work, which obviously doesn't work because we had to swap basically shenanigans with how we set this up so that we could actually do multiplayer. Hence why the hotkeys weren't displaying. That's why.
Fair enough.
You have a spot for me?
I was wondering. Yeah, there's a spot for you.
Weird. Now online, right?
Yes.
Huh. Can't see it. What the hell? I swear, we just did a test game like 20 minutes ago. Everything worked fine. Why is you not working?
Yeah, so it should be S. Let me just read it. Yeah, give it a try.
Okay, doesn't want to work, whatever, it's fine. You can do that solo. I'll set up the stuff for the campaign, if that's okay then.
Cool, yeah. Okay, so let's just get a 4-player map. Got 3 chapters, want to show all of the content. Right. Team colours. Space Marines and Space Marines. So for people that don't know, the first 3, so these are the ones that we've released the photos of on the Discord. We have Archangels, we have Salamanders, and we have Ravenguard. And then, Oleg, who was the other 2 we're doing? Imperial Fists and...
Imperial Fists
Space Wolves?
and... I think Space Wolves, yeah?
Yeah, so they'll be the other 2 in the next patch. Fun. Okay, so... this is still a work in progress. we are going to have a separate chapter. It's going to be called the Chapter Hall. What I've done is just made a duplicate of the barracks for now, but this will be its own building. And for now, just while I was sorting all the units out, I've just got them all here, but eventually it will be like Eldar is, so we will have the different chapter selections probably here, and then when you choose one, the correct content will come up. So we've got 5 units for the Dark Angels. We've not done all the descriptions yet or decided exactly what their sort of special abilities and special balancing will be. I think we're toying with the idea though, because we've got quite a lot of bike stuff, we may make the attack bikes some sort of kind of like a pseudo hero unit, so you can only build one and it buffs your other bikes. Yeah, let's have a...
There's a bunch of ideas that we're considering. Right now, these units are just like here as models, basically, with all of their weapons and all of that sorted out so that they can shoot and move and attack and all of that. And we'll be sorting out the exact balance for them and what exactly their design purpose is, basically in the next few weeks.
Yeah. So we've got bike squads. Not quite sure what sort of size will make them, but there certainly will be a lot more spammy model-wise than the usual bike implementation.
Yeah.
Then we get something, some stuff that's a bit more interesting. We've got the Deathwing Knights, which look great. Deathwing Terminators, which are ranged Terminators. Well, I think they're more going to be versatile. Yes, they will have the ranged upgrades. And then probably the most different of the new units, we do have the Landspeeder Vengeance.
Yeah. It's like a flying Land Raider or something. Looks active.
Yeah, try that again. Super happy with this.
I love how the guy at the top looks like I know that's just the positioning of the 2 plasma guns, but it looks like he just has 2 giant plasma pistols just sideways shooting.
Okay, from here he looks like he's just got a skull. Yeah. So super happy with this. So obviously Dark Angels is going to be relatively hit and runny.
Yes.
Early game, but then with some new content for later on in the game. There we go. So there's
the bikes are going to be hit and run mobility. Then, obviously the Terminators are more late game focused, as is the Landspeeder.
Yeah. I mean, even the Ravenwing attack bikes, even though they're stronger than the bikes, I'm pretty sure there won't be any later than tier 1. So this will certainly be...
Yeah, pretty sure they'll still be tier 1.
This will be early game shenanigans. Ravenguard. So... quite a bit of stuff to go through. Okay, so first off, another late game alternative to normal Terminators. We have Centurions, which is probably my favourite model of all the stuff. These are...
It looks so good. You should send them out to attack. You should see it with their attack animations. Their attack animations are freaking awesome.
Oh, we've got to leave something for the release.
That's fair.
I love these. Different model as well for their sergeant. Yeah, this was quite contentious. There's a few people that were sort of surprised that we'd added these, but yeah, we wanted to give every race some sort of Terminator equivalent. Well, let's say that, you know what I mean, some sort of super heavy infantry,
some sort of powerhouse unit.
Yeah,
that you can just, see smash shit up.
Yeah,
because like, you know, you can only have so many like fast or stealthy or whatever archetype units in a faction. You need some diversity.
Yeah. And it's not like Ravenguard don't use the Centurions.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Let's can't grab the bastards. Shadow Masters, so basically dedicated Space Marine snipers. We were toying with the idea of making these like Shadow Spectres for the Eldar, so stealth when still, but visible when moving. Yeah.
Yep. I'll see what I want to do with this kind of stuff. It's not that hard to change, so
Yeah.
I'll see what exactly that entails.
What should we do next? Let's do the 2 flyers. So we have the Xiphon Pattern Interceptor. See, and then we also have Ravenguard Storm Talon. So again,
These are basically going to supplement the current somewhat lacking air power of the Space Marines, because they have like some air vehicles, but those tend to be fairly meh. So, as well as, reworking the current ones, these will obviously supplement them with some extra utility and firepower.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some lovely new models. We do have a new land speeder. This is the land speeder Storm. So you can see the scouts in the back. The idea with this is you won't actually be able to build the scouts from the chapter hall. These will be deployed from the Storm. So they'll have quite a long cooldown, but when you spawn them from the land speeder, they will disappear from the back. You will see basically empty seats for the duration of the ability cooldown, and then when you can cast the scout spawn again, they'll appear again. So a nice little bit of visual fun. This will also probably have an ability that probably boosts the speed and gives it stealth, but for very short duration. Some early game shenanigans of stealthing it and going on recon, or stealthing it and dropping some scouts in the enemy base. Just some fun mobility and stealth strats, which of course is what Ravenguard is all about. And then finally we've got the Shadowhawk, which is the same model as the Thunderhawk, but this will be stealth and a little bit more expensive to compensate. But yeah, this is the model that we're used to. So yeah, that's the Ravenguard. And then Salamanders. The fire. It's flamers or melters. So we have Venerable Ironclad Dreadnought.
This will probably be a hero unit.
Yeah.
Along the lines of... Yeah, this will probably be like a vehicle hero unit. Basically having it scale with the hero upgrades, but you can only get one, since the Space Marines already have a lot of dreadnoughts. So just adding another dreadnought to the roster that you can spam just feels weird. So
yeah, so give it some interesting mechanics.
Yes,
potentially in terms of supporting other dreadnoughts, or not really decided. But yeah, this leading through other dreadnoughts quite impressive, because there's so much extra bits. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of nice arty bits on there. Yeah, so that's that. A couple of tanks. These are both Predator variants. So we've got the Infernus with, again, some nice artwork on the flamethrower. So basically, heavy flamethrower, big melter. Both have the pintle weapon can get upgraded to the flame multi-melter, and the side weapons go from bolters to flamers to multi-melters. So they'll be the same in that, but yeah. And then some different arty bits. Got the bulldozers just on one, just to make them a bit different. Yep. So a couple of predators. We've got something from what is it? The Age of Horus, Age of Heresy. What's my 30k? What's that period called?
I think it is just 30k.
Basically,
like
some
pre-Horus Heresy, I guess, is the other way to put it.
Yeah, we've got the rapier, which would be some sort of cannon. And then we've got basically scouts, but with flamers available. We've got stern guards with different weapons, basically. So we've got flamethrower combi bolter, melter combi bolter, and a heavy flamer. Not just the normal flamer, but the heavy flamer. And then some other stuff. Probably won't give them the grav gun, so that normal stern guards still have their place, but these will be kind of more of a mid-game anti-infantry.
I'll try to... Basically, the idea is these units won't be replacing the standard units, with the exception of maybe the scouts. Maybe I won't be able to figure out like a unique way to have the scouts, so we'll have to have them replace the normal scouts. But ideally,
I wouldn't mind if that isn't the case, because just having it a case of they're always in this building, I don't know, it gets a bit awkward when just like the one exception that go into
but
else.
yeah, the idea is these are separate units that you can get from the normal units, and they will have their own unique purposes rather than just being, normal stern guard but better in some ways. So that's the idea.
And if they are significantly better, they will be significantly more expensive.
Yes.
So in some ways that will mean that just getting the vanilla ones from the normal barracks still has a reason, if you're not quite rich enough to be able to afford the the chapter variants. We're not sure. We will be make quite a big effort to make sure that they are very different.
Yes.
And then Fire Drake Terminators, which are a assault variant. So flaming hammers, big shields, and funky masks. Yeah, so obviously it's nice to sort of just show the new content. Is there anything else we want to discuss? I guess one thing I do want to say is that when we have the new building, we're talking about it while looking at a barracks model. There will be researches, some specific researches to each of the factions. So these will be in the chapter hall as well. So you'll have the chapter unique units, you'll have the researches, and there will be researches as well, just to further differentiate between chapters. There will also be some other current content dropping into chapter availability. So, for example, at the moment, all of Space Marines has access to all of the dreadnoughts, all of the land raiders. We will be dropping some of the land raiders into being chapter specifics. So at the moment, you've got access, I think at the moment, to 4.
Yeah. And maybe having some of the dreadnoughts be chapter specific, because there's just too many dreadnoughts and they keep stepping on each other's toes.
So we've got
That
4
kind of thing.
dreadnoughts. We're going to have 3 dreadnoughts per faction, and just the combination of them will depend on sort of the flavour and the play style of the faction. And we've got 8 land raiders. There will be a few land raiders being added in the chapter, but then I think each chapter will maybe have access to maybe sort of 6 land raiders.
Yeah.
So again, the choice of chapter will also affect the choice of land raiders, just to further differentiate and further.
But this won't be done. This patch, this will be done probably after we have all of the sub-factions in the game and properly balanced and all of that.
Yes, I think
then we'll kind of play around with the restrictions and all of that. So don't worry about that for now. That's just, future plans.
Yeah.
Basically, like making it so that picking a sub-faction has some more flavor to it, where it's not just these extra units, it also in some way gets you to play more as said faction. Like maybe, salamanders with their heavy focus on, forging their own stuff and master crafted stuff will have access to some better dreadnoughts. So yeah, and stuff like that. So
yeah, we're not quite
and
sure.
It also makes it easier in terms of design space as well, because a lot of the time, even as a base faction, there's simply too many units for each one of them to have a unique purpose. So restricting some of them to sub-factions allows us to play with them a bit more and make them stronger whilst not making them broken. Like, for example, a good example of this were the Illusion drop troops, which, when they initially came out as part of the initial release, when they were initially released, they were not part of a sub-faction because they were just standard, and they were basically better Kasrkin. Like, when you went into Tier 3, there was no reason to get Kasrkin, you would just get the Elysian drop troops. But now, they're actually probably as good, if not slightly stronger, than they were back then, but they are restricted to a sub-faction, so they're not directly stepping on the Kasrkin toes, and they really only are if you go for said sub-faction. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so whenever you're ready, I'll start by... I can show off the campaign stuff.
Yeah. So this is one of the biggest things. So in my absence, you and a couple of the dev team have been putting insane amounts of time into this. So I am going to full screen this. Shut up and let's get rid of whatever that is. Oh wait. Right, okay. I'm going to shut up now and let you talk us through the campaign stuff.
Screen is all fine. So, first thing first, when you click on New Game, you may note these are labeled differently now. Because I got sick of people saying that, hey, the campaign was too hard when they were playing on a difficulty that simply wasn't suited for them, so these have been relabeled. To be clear, the actual difficulty wasn't changed, just the UI elements were relabeled to more accurately describe each of the difficulties.
Let's make it clear that the difficulty has been changed compared to...
Well, to vanilla. It has been significantly changed
units.
compared to vanilla. It just hasn't been changed compared to what I explained in 2.03. It's basically nearly the same with a few minor tweaks. It just the UI elements have been renamed. So, the next big thing that was altered was the Necron stronghold, where when used, I think it will become fairly obvious when this loads in, but basically Necron stronghold was the first one to get a full overhaul. I did some small changes to the strongholds before, just some small quality of life things, but this is the first proper rework. Eventually, all of the strongholds will be reworked in this way and brought up to speed with Crucible, but this is the first one to do so. So, let me pause the game and reveal the map. Pause, there we go. Just slow this down. Yeah, there we go. So, as you can probably tell, the map looks way different. All of the bases have been heavily reinforced with walls, defenses, garrisoning units. There are a lot more defenses around the initial areas outside your base. And there are also a lot more listening posts. I'm pretty sure we doubled, if not more than doubled, the amount of listening posts on the map. So if before you had 3 listening posts as your base ones, and then I think it was like 2 on the top side and 2 on the bottom side and some other miscellaneous ones, the number of listening posts has been significantly increased. There is now 3 baseline, and 1 for the first initial outpost, 1 for the second initial outpost, and 2 for the third and fourth initial outposts. There are 3 for each of the bases. No, sorry, 4. So there's 4 here. So 4 for the bottom base, and it should be 4 again here. Yes, 4 for the top base. Obviously, there's this extra listening post here that's just there. And also more listening posts over here. And not more listening posts over here, but that's because this place was given a more concrete purpose as well. So, what does this mean? This means that difficulty is going to scale differently. Where before you were basically encouraged to just sit there and turtle, because the amount of resources you would get from going out and trying to be aggressive versus the return for that investment, it was simply not worth it. Whilst here, this encourages aggression, where you need to go out on the map to capture more resources, and you need to keep doing it over and over and over in order to have a chance late game with the AI scaling. Because the AI scales very seriously as well. I'll show it in the save files later. But especially on the harder difficulties, the AI attack waves become ridiculous, and you need to have a good economy to be able to build them. So if you just sit on your initial 3 or 4 listening posts on harder difficulties, you will get overwhelmed. There's just no 2 ways around it. You will get overwhelmed. You need to actually be out on the map doing stuff. And that's kind of like the core design of the game. Unfortunately, because of the fact that your economy is tied to listening posts, there aren't really any good ways to make a defensible mission. As you may note, none of the strongholds or quite frankly, most of the missions, like I can think of 1 or 2 missions maybe in Winter Assault where you were actually just defending against an enemy force. Most of the time, the missions revolve around some sort of aggressive play, and that's due to the base design of the game, because your economy is tied to the listening posts. So yeah, so that's the basics of that. Again, as you may note, center was already reinforced, and the area around the monoliths was reinforced. Something else to note, which I'll be able to show here in a second, as the timer ticks up. This unit. Oh yeah, also, as for anyone who has played the Stronghold a lot, the areas around each of the monoliths has been reinforced, but also the patrolling units. This is way more patrolling units than there normally are, so capturing and holding the criticals is going to be actually a challenge, versus before where it was ridiculously easy. because they would send like one unit of warriors and that's it. Oh, there we go. They're triggered. As you can see, the AI now periodically increases its research tiers. So starting at tier 0 researches, it, over the course of 8 intervals, ticks up all the way to like tier 4 researches. So it starts off with like, some tier 0 researches, then a few more tier 0 researches, then tier 1 again, tier 2, etc., etc. So for example, at like 7-8 minutes in the game, or I think closer to 10, I think on hard, the Necron warriors will have their tier 3 upgrades and will be twice as powerful as they would be otherwise. So that's the other way that the AI scales. And this also goes for turrets, by the way. The AI gets turret upgrades over time. So in other words, later on, the turrets will be able to shoot over this area quite comfortably and hit your units over here. And obviously, if you go and attack, more of these turrets will be able to shoot at you. So, to showcase some other things. So, first thing to note, all of this stuff that I just mentioned, it's very easily adjustable. So, for example, if it turns out that I overtuned all of this to hell and all of it is just way too hard, which, to be clear, strongholds are meant to be harder than strength 10 provinces. That is the idea. They are the hardest thing you will fight on the campaign. So keep that in mind.
I mean, that is always how it should have been. But
yeah,
yeah,
that wasn't always the case even in base Soulstorm, unfortunately. But yes, that is the design philosophy that I'm going for. Strongholds should be harder than strength 10 provinces. So, this is a save 10 minutes in, basically. So, as you can see, these areas were reinforced with more units, and when they send out the next attack wave, yeah, so the attack waves are done in an interesting way. Actually, I quite like it. There is a pool of random units it draws from, and that it sends out as attack waves. So, for example, starting in the game, let's say the top base can send out maybe either warriors or flayers at you, and then that upgrades to maybe sending out some immortals as well, or death marks, or etc., etc. But there is an element of randomness to it, to where this won't be the same every single game. So each time you do the stronghold, the attack waves that you get sent at you will be slightly different in terms of composition and what units it brings.
Yeah, that should improve the replay value a little
Yes.
bit as well, just because it's not
not
always a carbon copy.
One thing to note, there is a reason to get rid of these 4 initial bases. If you were paying attention, like 30 seconds into the game, an attack wave spawned and started attacking me. These attack waves keep spawning from one of these 4 bases until all 4 are destroyed, or until it's like 15-20 minutes into the game. So you can just hold out against them, but it's highly encouraged to actually clear out these areas, because it gives you extra listening posts, it gives you more space, and it also prevents those attack waves from happening. As you can see, fully upgraded warriors, mostly upgraded flayers, and a fairly sizable patrol army protecting the critical location. Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. So, as for the other optional objectives, the Summoning Core. Summoning Core was always weird, where it didn't really do much in the base Soulstorm. Well, it does stuff now. Actually, I'll be better showing it off in the previous file. So, there are a few scripted instances where Necrons teleport to locations, like, let's say, when they teleport to defend the monolith. These defense waves have been increased in power. Oh crap, right, I don't have the... that's annoying. I don't have the thing. Actually, yeah, sorry, I'll actually need to go to the other file because I don't have the resources here. Oopsie. Saved at the wrong point. But yeah, so the getting rid of the summoning core does have a sizable effect, because whenever you try to attack a monolith, a big wave of units will spawn, and that wave of units will increase in power as the monoliths restore more and more. So there's now actually a reason to hold the crits early. Obviously, it will be harder to do on harder difficulties, but there is a reason to do it, because some of the things in the mission scale according to how awakened the monoliths are. So, do I have a Nightwing? Let me quickly grab a Nightwing and I'll show it off. If it survives, assuming. Run, Nightwing, run. Teleport you over here. So hopefully this works for air units as well. Don't get stuck. Oh, for God's sake. Okay, well, I won't be able to show it off. You'll need to see it for yourself. But yeah, whenever you get close to one of the monoliths or the summoning core, a bunch of units will spawn, and destroying the summoning core will prevent said spawning. So yeah, anything else? Oh yeah, if you do decide to turtle, first of all, I've been testing it on the, well, previously hard, now brutal difficulty, and I will tell you that the attack waves they send are quite brutal. Like 10 minutes into the game, they killed all of my units over here. They still have 3 fully upgraded squads of warriors left, and 2 tomb spiders coming in, as well as a bunch of attack scarabs and a few wraiths. So the attack waves on harder difficulties are probably going to kill you in and of itself, but if you decide to turtle and hold out until the monoliths awaken to, just kill them when they teleport near to your base, you have a surprise coming. Let's just say. For anyone who doesn't know yet, I won't spoil it, but there is a bit of a surprise waiting for you. So yeah, apart from that, that's really it. As you may note by the amount of different units out on the field, the Necron stronghold now uses basically the entirety of the Necron roster. Yes, that includes monoliths. Specifically, the bottom base. If you let that survive for long enough, it will start sending obelisks and monoliths at you. In large numbers.
But at the end of the day, hard difficulty is meant to be difficult for,
Yes.
long-term experienced players.
Yes. This difficulty is basically meant for gold people and up. That's not to say that good PvE players that are silver in PvP or something can't do it, but you need a certain amount of multi-management. I guess the main philosophy that I am kind of making this design from is that the mission should be taxing specifically on your ability to multitask and do multiple things at the same time. It should be specifically difficult because you need to go over here, capture this place. Go over here, destroy this place. You need to make sure to upgrade your listening posts. Oh, top base can send attack waves either this way or this way, so you need to keep track of it and make sure to defend from both sides. Oh, you go out onto the map, you need to make sure to protect yourself this side from attack waves over here, and it just keeps piling on and on. If you try to capture crits, obviously, patrols will spawn, and they will try to capture them back, etc., etc. It's a constant tug of war that taxes specifically your ability to do multiple things at the same time. It taxes your APM, basically. It taxes your decision-making and your APM, rather than the previous strongholds, which just taxed your patience. Because it was just a matter of sitting there for 30 minutes, building up an OP army, and then going and destroying things.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's the stronghold. I will concede that, like, this may be a little bit too much and maybe a little bit overtuned. We will have to see. This is something that will only become obvious once it's out there publicly released and you guys can try it.
And
hence,
we will back it down a notch.
Yes.
We're not too proud to ignore.
One thing to note is that the difficulty is quite easy to change here, because I made everything. I made most things scale off a single variable. So, for example, how much time you have for the mission. You may note that on hard difficulty, you only have like 7.5 minutes per stage, when normally you have 15. On easy, you have 15 minutes. You have the standard 15 minutes. And then, same goes for the attack waves and how fast enemies research. It's all timed to work nicely together, and it's all tied to basically a single variable. So whenever, if you feel that something is too hard and needs to be turned down, it's fairly easy to tune that single variable to give the player more breathing room. Like, the main difference between easy and hard isn't the amount of units they send or your HP versus enemy HP, the way it was in base Soulstorm. The main difference is that easy gives you way more breathing room. You're not constantly getting attacked. There's a good gaps between all of the attack waves. You have plenty of time to sit there and build up. The monoliths won't just suddenly awaken on you. You won't be 15 minutes in defending fucking tomb stalkers and being like, oh shit, the monoliths awaken in 7 minutes. And I haven't even gotten out on the map, kind of deal. Like, it's just about the space that the map provides you with. So that's going to be kind of the main thing. So if something is too hard, I can easily give the player more space. I can easily, turn the variable down so that it's half from what it is on easy to, let's say, I don't know, maybe like 60%. And that gives you, an extra few minutes before the monoliths awaken. It gives you a little bit of extra breathing room between attack waves. It means they research slower, etc., etc. So that's the way I will try to balance all of this at this point. Obviously, there's some other small tweaks that I'll make, but that'll be the main sort of balance. And the benefit of that is that it's very easy to tweak.
Yeah. We can make small adjustments between patches.
Exactly.
Until we do find
the nice sweet spot.
Yeah. Sweet. So that's the campaign then.
Yeah. So one other thing I would also like to mention is, well, what if you want things to be even easier? Because the problem is, I'm not sure if it's even possible to make a fourth difficulty on the menu. If it is, it's a hell of a lot of work to add a fourth menu in there, and we're probably not going to be doing that for a long while, if ever. So, if the campaign is still too hard and you want it to be easier, a few quick things that might help. So first of all, if you go into the Soulstorm folder and you go into the auto-exec file, you should see this sort of setup. So if you press F9, this will reveal the entire map. This means you don't need to worry about attack waves catching you off guard. You can just see what the AI is doing. You basically have perfect scouting. So obviously, let's say, so for people who are like, I still want persistent bases because I don't want to fight the same battle over and over again, you can't just disable the AI. That is a command here. You don't want to fight a battle, you can just disable the AI. You don't have to fight the battle. And I guess the probably the most useful one that's not like really cheating per se is the set sim rate. This basically changes the game speed. Normally it's at 8. You can half it. Obviously, you can change these values. So if you want Shift plus F3 to be, let's say, 6, you can easily change this, save it, and then it will work that way. So I guess the best way to really make it easier on yourself whilst not making it trivial is to change the game speed. Because what that does is it gives you more time to do everything. You get more time to react, you get more time to build stuff, you're less likely to forget things, etc., etc. So that would be kind of the main way I would recommend balancing the difficulty if it still feels like it's too hard for you. Okay. I think with that I am done.
Sweet. Should we talk briefly about AI? There are some.
Oh yes, we have. So the AI in general is probably going to be quite a bit better, because basically what we did is, due to Eagle's hard work, we have made reworked build orders for all of the AI factions. So all of the AI now have a good early build order, and because of that, snowball effect, the AI will work better throughout the game. There were some other fixes and other changes as well. Like, for example, the detector lists were also fixed for most factions, and a few other issues, but the main thing is the initial build order.
And over time, we will be adding more stuff, trying to make sure the AI is building
Yes.
all of the new content.
Yeah.
Now that we've got someone that is more dedicating themselves to learning the AI coding, we will be able to do more with that, which is exciting.
Yes, it is, because AI has been quite lacking compared to everything else.
Yeah. I might quickly show off one of the other things we've got changing in the next patch. I have been tempering the amount of time I've been spending on Eldar. Most people know that the reason Crucible exists and the reason I started modding is because I wanted to make the perfect experience in my eyes for Eldar. And I also know there's 12 races. I can't put all my time into a race that is not one of the most popular ones. But, I do bits here and there to keep myself happy. The happier I am, the more time I make for modding in general. But yes, I have reworked the Aspect Warrior system. So before, the way the Aspect Warriors worked is that basically you had some tier 0 ones, some tier 1 and some tier 2. And that never really sat well with me, because the whole idea of Eldar is that they're all, ignoring the Guardians, they're all as expert warriors as you can get. And to sort of have Dire Avengers and Howling Banshees as the lower end ones, and the Fire Dragons and Warp Spiders as the higher end ones, I didn't like how that felt. So my idea is, you now have access to all of the options in tier 1, but they are quite weak. They're all balanced to be, just average tier 1 units. You then can upgrade them 2 tiers. You can upgrade them to the first tier in tier 1, and in tier 2 you can upgrade them a second time. But there's only 7 selections you can make. So after you've clicked these 7 times, you can no longer choose any more. So there's only so much you can do. So for example, Warp Spiders are balanced a bit differently because they are jump troops, but most of them start off not being able to build the X-Arch at all, and as a squad of 5. And that is how you'll be able to access all of them in Tier 1. Relatively small squad size, no X-Arch, and none of the abilities. So things like the Howling Banshees, they won't have their washout. As you get the first tier, you will be able to build one more squaddy and build the X-Arch. And they'll also have some small buffs to damage and health. And then as you tier up second time, you'll be able to increase them by another one. And then, so for example, the Banshees start off with no washout. As you get the first one, they will gain the old washout, but then because they used to be balanced for Tier 1, well, kind of Tier 0, then Tier 1 after you got their upgrade, their washout was pretty much useless after Tier 1.5. When you now tier them a second time, they will get an upgraded version. They will sort of stay, they'll get buffed, and their abilities will be appropriate for Tier 2 infantry. So just gives you more versatility and to play them how you want. If you want to be using Howling Banshees and Dire Avengers as Tier 2 units, you have the option. It just gives you a lot more versatility to play the way you want, rather than being forced into this system of Tier 0, Tier 1 and Tier 2 options. So we'll see how it goes. I need to make sure that it's not too overtuned. I don't think it is. I'm changing a few more things before they come out. But when they do come out, there is full details on what the different tier buffs do. Yeah,
sounds good. That's definitely an interesting way to do it, and will give Eldar a unique flavor.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like reminded of something like, the Emperor's Armory or something along those lines.
That is the system. In fact, if you look in the Aspect portal, you will see that artifact limit. It is the same coding mechanic.
Yes.
Any other stuff you want to chat about? Stuff for the next patch?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I could talk more about the AI, but I think that's something people just need to play with and get used to. Yeah. And this is the other thing where this is the other reason, by the way, why I renamed the labels on the campaign. Since the AI is getting improved, that will obviously also have a knockoff effect on the campaign, because the way I coded the campaign is that it uses certain difficulties of the skirmish AI, and now that the AI is better, the campaign is going to be naturally a bit harder because the AI is just better. So, hence the other reason for renaming the difficulties.
And again, if we need to, we will.
Yep, we can tune it down. There are ways to balance it out. Worst comes to worst, I can make a separate add-on, which gives you even more leeway than you get before, that people can use if they really want, if they're really struggling and can't make it through the current difficulties. But we'll see if that's necessary.
Yeah. Hopefully we can just get the difficulty, the 3 difficulties into a state where, everyone is catered.
They are quite different from each other. The catch is, I'm not sure if 3 difficulties is enough. That's the thing. They are definitely different for each other and are definitely for different caliber of players, but I'm not sure if it's enough.
Yeah.
Sneaky, it's mostly just the build order. There were some small fixes. Their detection list was fixed. Funnily enough, something like CSM, for example, for some godforsaken reason, they had bikes at the top of their detection list. So whenever you would build any stealth units, the CSM AI would be like, oh, stealth unit, let me get more bikes. And obviously, the bikes aren't detectors, so they would just get more bikes, and then the bikes wouldn't do their job, and then the AI would just get confused and die. So, yeah, now it has all the proper detectors in there and stuff like that. So those are the two main things. They're much less susceptible to detector cheese because, all of that has been fixed, and they're just better build orders. The AI just works better. There's no real way to describe it other than that.
Yeah, and that is very much a work in progress.
Yes,
we're really
it will always be a work in progress. The improving AI is a never-ending battle.
Cool. All right. I guess thanks for everyone that tuned in. We will get this on YouTube. We haven't had too many viewers, but we'll get it on YouTube so that people can watch in their own time. And we'll get the patch hopefully out within the not too distant future.
Yep. Hopefully. We're past the main bottleneck, so it shouldn't take too long at this point, but yeah.
Go ahead on the suggestion for YouTube. While waiting for that, I just want to thank everybody for the patience. I know it's been a long time coming. We do want to get back to much more regular releases, but this was a big task that we wanted to do, and myself getting mega busy. The team is still growing. We're getting more experience still. We get faster and faster. But we've done it in the past. Striker. Most of the dev chats we've had have been timestamped by section.
By topic.
So we'll do that. Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. And hopefully see you. Well, you'll probably hear from me before the next devlog because I have some videos in the works some guides that should be out soon, and then hopefully see you in a month, maybe a little bit more with the actual devlog.
Sweet. All right. See you, everyone.
Yeah.